founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Eric Stine, and we're going to be talking about leading sales transformation in difficult times. I can't think of a better subject to talk about, to be honest, Eric. You know, the number one thing I hear at the moment is that nobody's got any pipeline.
I hear that quite often as well.
So everybody knows who watches this. I don't do bios. I tell people where they can get hold of you.
Sure. So you can usually find me at Mr. Frosty's ice cream shop in Norwalk, Connecticut, buying ice cream. But when I'm not there, you can mostly find me on LinkedIn. That is my primary social channel. I will tell you a funny story. I used to use Facebook very, very briefly. I found Facebook in, I want to say
1971.
Pretty much, right? I think I found Facebook in 2009 or 2010. And for a brief period of time, like everyone, I was obsessed with looking up people I went to grammar school with and things like that. And I was only on Facebook for about a year and a half. And then I was a VP of sales at the time. And I was just about to be promoted to general manager. And I was working on the last deal the company needed me to do, this big transformational opportunity before I was going to step into my new role. And I was talking with the vendor manager and the buyer from our customer, very, very large Fortune 50 company. And she was commenting on some photos that my husband had posted of us on Facebook from a recent weekend at the beach. And I decided in that moment that if I was going to continue any sort of vertical trajectory in my career, the last thing any of my colleagues, customers, or team members ever needed to see was a photo of me at the beach. And I immediately shut down Facebook. And that was the end of my Facebook experience.
So great story. So leadership.
Number one, no beach photos on your social channel.
No beach photos. Yes.
Where would you like to start talking about leadership?
You know, I'm interested in sales transformation. I'm interested in how, as an organization, we can go from where we were to somewhere in the future, because clearly something has changed. But leadership, what does it mean?
Sure. So for me, let's start at the very, very beginning, right? Leadership means knowing who the right people are and knowing what they want. And the right people in stack ranked order, although there is a hair's breadth of difference between their ranking, the right people are your customers who have a clear understanding of the business outcome that they are seeking and know how to partner with you as a solution provider. That they're first. Second is your team. That includes your leadership team, your field organization, your stakeholders across your company, and your business partners who extend the organization for you. And in that cohort, it is those who clearly understand the mission and are willing to sign up for it with an understanding of what trade-offs are required. And then the third are the people that you work for, particularly your share owners, your investors, your board of directors. Okay. And the reason that leadership is knowing who the right people are in each of those three cohorts and knowing how to give them what they want is quite simply this. We don't have a job until a customer says yes. My old boss and mentor, Bill McDermott, now the CEO of ServiceNow, said that frequently, and I've carried it with me because it is true. We do not have a job until the right customer says yes. The right customer, by the way, is not one that has unreasonable expectations of what your product can do, but one who has taken the time to understand what it does. The right customer is one who understands what their role is, not just in vetting your product, but in bringing the right resources from their team and the ability to make decisions in a timely manner. But we don't have a job until the right customer says yes. We also do not have the ability to lead if people aren't going to follow us. And so the decisions that you make about what leaders you want on your team, why diversity, equity, inclusion, fairness, and belonging are all critically important. The way you motivate your team through a mix of recognition and financial rewards, all of those are critical to getting people to follow you. And then the last is, of course, what outcome are you trying to produce? Are you trying to grow a company? Are you trying to take it public? Are you trying to merge with another company? You have to have a really clear understanding of what the company's strategy is, and you have to be willing to sign up for driving that. I think so many of us for so many years got tempted, if not drunk, on the drug of fully funded, unrestrained growth.
Right.
And I'm a little bit of a dinosaur at this point in my career, Tim. I have worked through the events of September 11th and the market correction that followed it.
Yeah, I did as well. I had a startup and we just went.
Right. And the whole dot-com bubble burst. We were there for it.
Yep.
We worked through the financial crisis and the banking crisis of 08, 09, 2010. We have worked through COVID, and now we have worked through the Great Resignation, quiet quitting, every buzzword you can think of that has come out over the last couple of years. But the reality is that what the market is demanding right now goes back to a very old thing another CEO I have been fortunate enough to work for, Jeff Torr, used to say, which is this: a company that makes $1 can survive forever, and a company that loses $1 every year will eventually go out of business.
Yeah.
And so understanding how profitable you are, how you can be more profitable, understanding things like average deal size and average contract length, understanding not just net retention rate, but gross retention rate, understanding the importance of how and when to use price increases, or how to repackage your product to drive cross-sell or upsell, understanding the best way to drive scale and efficiency inside increasingly matrixed sales organizations is crucial. It's not enough anymore just to be profitable. Can you be more profitable? Are you the most profitable in your category? Do you understand, as well as you understand your pipeline, however anemic as it may be at this point in time, do you understand your return on Salesforce? Do you understand your return on your marketing investment? Do you understand how to put every dollar available to work, and what the most responsible allocation of capital and OpEx is at this point in time? Because I believe the CROs and the sales leaders that are going to win are the ones that understand not just how to grow the business, but who understand how to run the business.
And I mean, I was going to ask you, why is it important? But I think you've answered that, haven't you?
I hope so, because that was a lot.
We're leading. We're leading in challenging times. So we're in a situation where, you've gone through a number of recessions that we've had, but for some people, they've not done that. You know, we've had 10 years of pretty much zero interest rates, and here they're like 5-6%. I know they're not quite so high in the US, and that's a big shock for people. So what is it that we can be doing now? You've lived through, I don't know, was it 5 recessions or 4 recessions that we've had? What learning can you bring to that?
I think the most important learning I would give you is this. I'm going to give you 2. The first is, the things that are currency in boom times are even more valuable currency in lean times, but they always matter. The first is that I believe that every field organization needs to traffic in 3 core values: substance, empathy, and trust. Substantively, you need to know something that your customer doesn't. You need to be able to bring them a point of view and an insight about their business that sets you apart from your competition and is transformative to their ability to transform your business. In terms of empathy, you have to care about their problem as much, if not more, than they do. If you want to solve it as badly as they do, then that will drive the third value, which is trust. Another thing McDermott used to say, earned in drops and lost in buckets. You need to be able to be as good as your word. When you don't know, say you don't know and then go find out. When you do know, take the time to explain and to explain why. Be respectful, be responsive. But those values will guide you well in boom or bust times, but even more when things are difficult. The second thing I would tell the folks listening is every organization pretty much breaks down into the same three buckets. You've got a top, a middle, and a bottom. You've got a top 20%, a bottom of 20%, and a big middle in the 60. And it should be clear who your top performers are, who your top customers are, who your biggest champions are. It should also be clear who's at the bottom, who's too new to evaluate, who your biggest detractors are. And again, this goes for customers, it goes for employees, it goes for business partners. The art of being a great sales leader is knowing what to do with the middle, right? Who is maturing? Who, with the right coaching and the right motivation, is going to move from the bottom of that 60% to the top of that 60% or into your top 20%?
Yep.
Who needs to be re-recruited because they've got the skill, they just may have lost the will, and you need to determine, can they get that back? Or has the moment just moved past them? You know, years ago when we used to do performance evaluations, we never took the 60 in the middle and just left them in the middle. We had a concept called left of median and right of median, and it was a great way of dividing up sort of the top of the middle and the bottom of the middle. I think that's good for a lot of, development and visualization purposes, but I really just think the most important thing to do is have a very, very clear understanding of who is in the middle and an even clearer understanding of what are you going to do about it.
Yeah, when I've been involved in those in performance reviews, it is about understanding the individuals and why they're there. And we had individuals who had no interest in moving forward in their career, but they were fantastic at delivering what they were delivering. And of course, the performance review, in theory, was all about, well, you need to, where do you want to go in your career? Well, I'm happy where I am. Okay, well, and it was about making sure that we worked on each of those individuals, and there were some people that were falling down in terms of their performance, and really it was just about them finding their hunger, or they were distracted because they'd got elderly parents or something like that, and maybe it was a case of finding, how can we help you with that?
It's interesting, but what you're pointing to is the importance of understanding people's motivations. I have over the years worked with many great sales professionals. I'm thinking of somebody now who is a 40+ year career individual contributor who is outstanding, but he likes the freedom that being an individual contributor gives his schedule. He likes the money that he earns. He likes the work-life balance he's able to achieve now that he has such deep technical expertise and sales acumen. And I know two people who are amongst the world's best first-line sales managers who don't aspire to the second line, who don't want to be an organizational leader. They like being team leaders. They have spent between them 50 years in first-line sales manager roles in the aggregate. And for each of them, what they love is developing talent, coaching people, and helping individual contributors who do aspire to be sales managers and organizational leaders to find those skills and to find that passion within themselves. And as a leader, it can be very hard sometimes to keep those people motivated or to retain them. And so every option that you have, from creating, it's become very popular to do these early talent advisory boards. On several of my teams, we've created established talent advisory boards for 10, 15, 20 plus year career veterans and individual contributor and first line jobs to tackle big organizational problems. Sometimes it means involving them in your sales enablement strategy. Sometimes it means finding expert roles or other compensation strategies to reward and retain them. But you need to be able to respect, reward, and engage the individual who is happy at a certain career level and wants to continue to be challenged and recognized at that level, and not assume that everybody is on the same vertical trajectory. And that can be a really challenging thing to do, especially in times like this.
So, Eric, I want to take a slight change.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about go-to-market transformation, because I think it's important as part of leading sales teams. You when we had our prep call, you talked about there needing to be sales in market, customer experience versus the financial plan or the product. You talked about that. Talk the audience through that.
Sure. So when I think about go-to-market transformation, I actually start with 4 basic questions that I learned when I was a sales management intern 31
and
years.
You have it on a Post-it note on your...
I do. That's right. My 4 questions. I did. I had it on a Post-it note above my desk. The 4 questions are, what do I make? Who buys it? What are they willing to pay for it? And how do I get it to them? And I come back to those 4 questions every single time I do a sales transformation. I come back to them all the time, quite honestly, for the same reason that you always have to come back to individuals' motivations, because sometimes somebody you think is going to be a 30-year individual contributor, all of a sudden at year 30, she decides now she wants to be a first line manager, something she said no to 10 times. So you've always got to check, just like you're always qualifying a deal. You always need to check with your team's motivations. You always need to check these 4 questions. And so the question, what do I make, really is, do I understand the product market fit of what I'm taking to market? Because you can't do a go-to-market transformation if you're going to shift resources away from where the market is. So do you truly understand the addressable market for the products in your category? Do you understand how they fit together into a portfolio? Do you need to re-examine your packaging strategy? Do you need to rethink the structure of your go-to-market so that you have overlays, SWAT teams, standalone sales organizations selling into the same customer but representing different brands with very minimal overlap? But the question, what do I make, is really a question about your understanding about where do you have a right to play and a right to win in the market, and how are you going to get to that market? The question about who buys it is, do you understand how to reach the buying center? With every organic development, with every acquisition, with every change to your portfolio, your packaging strategy, your buying centers and your centers of influence might change, right? Who writes the check? Who makes the decision? Who owns the problem? The answer to those 3 questions may be 3 different people in the organization. Do you know who that is? Are you set up to reach them? Do you have a story that is compelling for them? I see this a lot with startup and growth equity companies that start with a land and expand motion, right? They plant a lot of seeds everywhere, but when you don't continually interrogate the question of who buys it, then you may miss that you're only getting expansion opportunities upon hard renewal, and you should be pushing that expansion cycle more proactively, particularly if it's in your company's best interest to start shifting from 1 year to 3-year or longer multi-year agreements. You don't want to wait 3, 4, or 5 years to expand the portfolio, and you don't want to wait for the customer to come to you. If you're doing proactive expansion in a land and expand motion, you may go to a different buying center. Similarly, if you've got a company that's been successful at landing at multiple points within the same corporation, banks are great for this. big industrials are great for this, and all of a sudden you've got 8, 18, 80 different contracts all over the same corporation with its parents or its affiliate. You immediately have the ability to start putting together enterprise deal structures, and that is very likely going to be multiple levels higher than where you've historically been selling, which is all a question of, do I have the right people? Do I have people who can reach that buying center? And so when you ask the question, who buys it, it's also a reflective question about what your go-to-market motion is, what your organizational structure looks like, and if you have the right talent profile for your organization and who you're selling to. What are they willing to pay for it? How is your market changing? Years ago, I worked at a company that was at one point the market leader in their space, but because of open source, their market was going to zero very, very quickly, but they had been highly acquisitive and they were more valuable as a portfolio company, but they didn't have the go-to-market structure for a portfolio company. Every sales organization was a silo, and it needed to be transformed into a matrix, and the portfolio needed to be repriced and repackaged. In other cases, there are a lot of companies that start out with a price or a licensing structure like a site license that's actually below what the market will bear just to get penetration, but they don't necessarily know when they have hit a point where the value they're delivering is far exceeding the price that they are charging. And so understanding what is the market willing to bear for your product, your portfolio, is a question about pricing and packaging that will also help you organize your go-to-market and your coverage model. And then the last question, and this is one of my favorite, how does the customer buy it? How do you think about distribution? What's direct sales? What is an inside sales motion? What's an e-commerce motion? Who are your partners? Who's your ecosystem? So many growth companies are sort of hell-bent on doing everything directly that they've shut out folks in their ecosystem who are not competitors, but they are a natural extension for their product. If you've got an HR tech product, how many of your customers are also Workday customers and you're tightly integrated with it, but you don't really have a partnership or anything beyond a technical partnership there? If you are in the customer stack, do you have a partnership with Salesforce? If you're in the fulfillment side, do you have a partnership with SAP? But really think through who your ecosystem is and how does that help you get to market. But those 4 questions, what do I make, who buys it, what are they willing to pay for it, and how do I deliver it to them, are all really, really crucial questions that help you explore segmentation, coverage model, pricing, packaging, comp strategy, talent level, and the assets and collateral that you're using to tell your value story and to build your ecosystem that I think are at the heart of every go-to-market transformation.
Eric, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this. This has been a bit of a masterclass for me in terms of, as we said, leading sales transformation in difficult times, not only in terms of leadership, but also go-to-market strategy. And I love your 4 questions. I have them written down and on my notes, and I've actually looked at them. I'm now going, where's those notes from that conversation I had with Eric?
You are very kind, Tim. I am honored to have been invited today. I was so honored, actually, that I had my hair done just like yours for the I really appreciate the time.
Eric, no, it's been fantastic, and we've had some chat as well, and Andrew said it's a very interesting talk as well. So remind people where we can get hold of you.
Just find me on LinkedIn. That's the best place to find me.
Okay, brilliant. Eric, thank you so much. And I know that you've trekked through jungles and planes, trains, and automobiles to get here today, and I really appreciate that as well. And thank you so much for that.
I was delighted to do it. Thanks, Tim. Have a great
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.